What's up, witches? It's me, Cheyenne, aka the Lunar Priest. We're here today showing you a bunch of different books, mostly witchy books. So I want to just hop right into the video because we have a lot to explore. I'm going to try to keep it short without rambling too much on any one single book, but before I do, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. It really does help me to continue making content. It is a huge dream of mine to do this full time. It's getting there, it's going well, but nonetheless, all of your likes and comments, subscriptions, etc. are always so appreciated. So yeah, let's just hop right into the video. So first and foremost, I think we've got to start with kind of the OG category of this channel, which is tarot. Here we go. Okay, we have Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, a tarot journey of self-awareness. So it's low-key giving workbook in a way. Like, it's not a workbook, but she has her whole set of beliefs going on here, and there's a lot of good stuff in here. Like, it's a great book for beginning. The Book of Thoth, however you want to say it. This is for all the aleister crowley peeps out there. Peeps, I hate it. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't even want to go into how much I nerded out on Crowley. But regardless, this book has all of his insights on his tarot book, breaking down some of the symbology. You know, there's highlights and things that I've taken notes on from this book, though these days, I'm gonna be real, I don't pull out the tarot books as much as I used to. Meditations on the Tarot, and this is a journey into Christian Hermeticism. I, as like a theology enthusiast, really liked this. It was recommended to me by another witch that I know, and I don't super like refer to this one, but it is very interesting to see the lines drawn between biblical, I want to call it mythology, ooh. To see the lines drawn between archetypes throughout Christianity and Hermetic philosophy on that sort of thing, and the tarot. So really good one if you want to like really nerd out. Then we have another Hermetic book on the tarot, the Tarot, Magic, Alchemy, Hermeticism in Neoplatonism. Isn't that bad? I don't know how to say that. It's the second edition, and it's by Robert M. Place. This book it's pretty killer, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's one of those ones where anytime I've made my tarot courses or anything like that, I've got this one sitting by. It just is a really good one to like open up and get an idea. You know, there's stuff about Tree of Life, alchemy, everything Hermetic going on with the tarot, and also like planetary stuff. I mean, if you are a tarot type of witch, then you probably already know this, but the tarot has so many correspondences to so many lineages, cultures, philosophical matter in general. It's connected to so many things. So I've really tried to collect as much information on the tarot. Like, you'll see that most of my books were kind of influenced by the era of my life where I really devoted myself to studying the tarot, which has been like a 5-year path at this point of like serious, rigorous studying. So let's keep going. I have the Book of Tarot by Danielle Noel. She makes the Star Child, Moon Child, like all those. I actually picked this up because I was going through a time where I was having a harder time finding the medicine in the cards, because I was so tunnel visioned with more of the heavier archetypal lessons, I guess, of the tarot at the time. And reading for myself had become kind of toxic because I wasn't like looking at things with optimism. So I bought this book as a way to become more lighthearted and kind of step back and simplify and return to like the modern feminist approach to just reading cards rather than being so heavy with it, if you know what I'm saying. Then I have Advanced Tarot Secrets by Dusty White. I got this on Amazon, to be honest, and I just kind of like bought it because I thought it would have some good stuff. I honestly haven't really dived into it too much. I mean, they give a lot of like spread techniques and you know, cards behaving in unity or in unison. So there's good stuff in here. I just personally, I guess, haven't had the call to like dive into this book as much. But then we have the Mary K. Greer workbook style tarot for yourself, and I picked this up because I was planning my tarot course and I just wanted to see how other people were going about approaching the subject matter. I haven't used it. It's pretty in-depth on one hand. Like there's lots of like good spreads, stuff about the Tree of Life, obviously, the Celtic Cross, like there's a lot of good stuff in here, but I haven't filled it out. Then we have the Holistic Tarot, another one that I can kind of nerd out on, like just opening it up. They have all of the cards in here through their own lens. They have spreads and tables and so much good, like just matter for your mind to just eat up on the tarot. And it is by Benabel Wen, and it's an integrative approach to using tarot for personal growth. I don't know how to pronounce things. I'm autistic. I was diagnosed when I was 3 years old. Just so you know, sometimes when I say things, I have my own little spin on doing it, and I'm pretty sure it comes from that. So, and then I picked up this tarot deck, and it just came with a little booklet. Kept it, whatever. Actually, I kept it because I kind of liked the typography. For those of you who don't know, I went to school for typography. I'm a big graphic design nerd. Let's just take a moment, because the Kabbalistic Tarot by Robert Wang has been, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it's so in-depth on Kabbalah and tarot, while also being incredibly simple. Like they're only really giving like a couple pages or a couple paragraphs, like not even a full page to each card, but it has the correspondences. It shows you where it's at on the Tree of Life. There's other like charts and things like that in this book. This book, if you're into Kabbalah, ritual magic, if you're into it and you're getting into it, this book is awesome. Then I have this Triple Goddess Tarot book, and this was actually from a deck that I had. Kept the book. I don't know where the deck went though. I think it was one of my very first tarot decks that I bought. Okay, moving on. This is one of my favorite ones, and it'll transition us into our next pile, which is the astrology pile. This is tarot and astrology. I actually would like to write my own book on this matter, because I believe that I have my own take on seeing, you know, tarot through the lens of astrology, just because I have a lot of my own takes on astrology and tarot. But this book, when I saw it, I was like, no brainer, gotta buy it. You know, just tells you a little bit about what each card is correspondent to with astrology. It goes into the houses. It's very beginner friendly though. Super good book. Switched out my battery. It already was dying because I've been filming a vlog actually. So I'm filming a vlog about kind of just casually cleaning my house and doing that through a more enchanted kind of way. Yeah, so be on the lookout for that vlog if I post it. Hopefully I do. Anyhow, that's why my battery was low. Wow. Okay, moving on to the astrology books. I have Jan Spiller's Astrology for the Soul. This one's all about North Node, South Node. Really good, useful resource. Then I have Saturn by Liz Green. Same kind of deal, just on Saturn. Lots of good philosophical stuff in here. Great reference. Predicting events with astrology. I am obsessed with progressions and transits and all that type of stuff, so I kind of bought as many books as I could on the matter. So good learner's book, but there are tips and tricks that I feel like no books give you if you're really just starting out. So maybe I could do a video on predicting with astrology so that the really beginner person can kind of step into the realm, because I feel like all the books say, you know, it's gonna take you in deep, and they do, but there are just little things that aren't super obvious to starting. So maybe I'll make a little video on that. Leave a comment if you'd like that. Thought I would include this in here. It's Ancient Astrology in Theory and Practice by Demetria George. Insanely useful text book, workbook. get it. Like, it is so good. My dear friend Elisa, a really great astrologer, acupuncturist, great witch, recommended it to me, and I love this piece of literature. It is so good. We've got a new American ephemeris for predicting and transits, etc. Using dignities in astrology, I haven't dived, I don't know. I haven't gotten into this yet, but I'm excited to. It's by Charles Ober, and there's like, I think, what's his name? Is his name Chris Brennan? I don't know. The Astrology podcast, though, kind of introduced me to the dignity importance, and so I got a book. Got this cool little one at a used bookstore. It's Meditations on the Zodiac, and it has someone else's notes in it, and I'm kind of a sucker for that type of thing, and it just looks really cool, so got that. This thing was on sale, Astrology Transits, Barnes & Noble. Don't really need to go into it too much. Llewellyn's complete book of predictive astrology, same thing. I went on a retreat with a company that I was working for who was collaborating with Stephen Forrest, and I got a book from him that he wrote, The Inner Sky. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be real. Like, I've opened it a couple times. I haven't read it all the way through. There's everything from houses to degrees to planets. Pretty cool. I would say it's for someone who is interested and has done research and is ready to get a little bit deeper, but you know, like, I'm not picking it up all the time to refer to it. Another predictive astrology book by The Eagle and the Lark. This one's really cool. It has a lot of like moon work in here, and then also I feel like it has a little bit more examples and stories too, and for that reason I haven't really gotten into it because I'm bored. I know it's really bad, but I'm pretty like technical. I just want the how-to info, and sometimes when there's stories I end up like putting the book down because of that. But not everybody is like that, and some people like to see the examples and the chart examples and stuff like that, so that book is really good for that. But if I'm being real, I just haven't had the bandwidth, I guess, to go into a book like that as of late. This one is a borrowed one, and it's The Secret Language of Relationships by Gary Goldschneider and Joost Effers. This is really fun. This is like literally every birthday combo you can think of and how the two will interact. Just a fun read. We also have Llewellyn's complete book of astrology, and I just thought this was really interesting. I'm the type of person who thinks I'm going to be writing books, and as far as I've got is working on a poetry book and then obviously making workbooks for my courses. But I kind of picked that up as a great, you know, little reference, and just to see what kind of topics are covered in a book like that. I was pretty intrigued. Then we have Astrology of the Moon, one that is on like my next to read or next to pick up, take notes, and go through it by Amy Herring through the signs, an illuminating journey through the signs and houses, but it's all focused on lunar stuff. So right on brand, right? Then we have Astrology, Nutrition, and Health by Robert Karl Jansky. This one literally tells you about like astrological placements and like proteins in the diet. It has literally just like the correspondences of nutrition and health with astrology. Lastly in this pile, I have Astrology for Yourself. It's a really fun workbook, and it's very simple, and it takes you to the very beginning and has you fill stuff out. I like to pick this up and just go through it, and yeah, it's like calming and chill and super easy. So I feel like a good segue into our next category of spells and grimoires and Book of Shadows would be this, the Planetary Magic one. Kind of crosses over between astrology and that subject. So Planetary Magic is one of my favorites. Denning and Phillips is the author, are the authors. It's a book on invoking and directing the powers of the planets. Super cool. Like there's so many spells. There's the Rite of Contacts for different planets. There's different deities that are associated. Like, it is just a really fun, comprehensive way to begin your serious magical practice with the planets. Can't recommend it enough, but I would say, you know, word of caution as we venture into the next realm which I'm sure if you're here, you kind of have an idea and you've seen the, or even felt the effects or the weight of dealing with, you know, mystical, occult matter, and always proceed with, you know, an intention of staying in harmony, in safety, in health, and whatnot. And, you know, I don't know. I don't think I really need to go into all that, but I would just, you know, a word of caution, I guess, as you proceed. If you decide to start your spellcrafting journey after watching this video, if that is, you know, one of the viewers out there, I recommend doing a lot of research first. Some of these books might help you with that, but, you know, don't just go in blindly, as with anything. Speaking of which, like kind of dipping your toe in, the Goodly Spell Book is a really nice resource. There's a whole front section that they recommend reading about, you know, like if you're going to be doing spell work. So this is a favorite of mine. Like, I was using this when I was, I hate this term, baby witch, but it's like when I was just learning, I had this book, and I still love referring to this coven's magical practices. It's Old Spells for Modern Problems by Lady Passion, High Priestess, DeVay, and the High Priest of Coven Old and Wild. So there's all sorts of spells in this book, and they do have kind of a good little message around that matter. Then we have another kind of, you know, more lighthearted spell book here, 1001 Spells, the complete book of spells for every purpose. I just picked it up because I thought it would be fun to refer to and just see what's inside. And I'm kind of working my way up in weight, sort of like picking out these books, because then I have like Moon Spells, How to Use the Phases of the Moon to Get What You Want. It's Pretty Chill by Diane Alquist. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Yeah, there's like all sorts of, you know, very modern spells going on in here, and it revolves around working with the moon. Then I have two candle magic books. One is for beginners and one is advanced. The beginner one is by Mystic Dylan, Spells for Abundance, Love, and Healing. There's 30 enchanting spells, the magic of color, complete candle care, and spells, some of their spells too. So this is just one that I've kind of referred to and mostly taken into circle. Like if I'm doing a group spell thing, I like to take something a little bit more light and versatile for people to use. So that's a good one for that. And then we also have Ray Buckland's Advanced Candle Magic. This one has a lot more about placement and just like gets really ritualistic about it. And yeah, this one's pretty cool too. Something that I try to do is, if I'm going to be practicing somebody else's spell, I like to do, you know, some research and get a feel for the author, because just because it's in a book doesn't mean that it's a trustworthy source or that there's not like some real bias and oppression behind the book too. So another thing that I've learned to try to do, I'm not saying like there could be a book in here that's like very problematic. There actually definitely is, okay? But yeah, that's just something that I feel like I try to do if I'm really going to take a spell seriously and like practice it multiple times, or take it into group, or do it for another person, or whatever the case is. Like, trying to do that research has really helped my own personal craft. So just a little bit of info I wanted to share. Then I have The Grandmother of Time. I got this in Seattle at a secondhand shop. It's by Susanna, I don't know. E. Budapest, and this has a lot of good stuff on different Sabbats, stories, herbs, like just a really fun witchy book that I like to, you know, dive into from time to time. And then I have Laurie Cabot's Book of Shadows, and this one is really cool. There's a lot of story, there's tables, there's different subject matters, there's spells. Just, you know, Laurie Cabot has a lot of great resources on witchcraft. And lastly, from this section, I have two Dark Goddess craft books, and one is by Stephanie Woodfield and the other one is by Stephanie Woodfield. So this is Celtic lore and spellcraft of the Dark Goddess, invoking the Morgan. So she really goes through the different faces of the Morgan, somebody that I was called to work with, you know, a few years ago, and have done a lot of different rituals with is the Morrigan. And then I ended up picking up The Dark Goddess Craft, A Journey Through the Heart of Transformation. Again, more spells, more stories, more faces, and really fun. So from there, since we ended on the Morrigan, why not hop into my Norse little book collection, Norse Paganism, A Comprehensive Guide to Viking History and Culture by Eric Hansen. I picked this up like just because I saw it and I was like, well, we'll just add it to the library, and if I like it and if I do some research on it, we'll keep it. If not, we'll pass it along. Then we have Norse Mythology, Paganism, Magic, Vikings, and Runes by Gunnar Hillenson. I'm not saying that right. Learn all about Norse gods and Viking heroes, explore the world of pagan religion rituals, magic spells, Elder Futhark runes, and Asatru. Oh my god, I'm not saying it right. Again, same kind of deal. I haven't done a lot of like specifically Norse pagan practices. As far as I've really gone is through working with goddesses and the runes. So I wanted to pick up a couple of guides in case there was a time where I really needed to go deeper or whatever. So I don't have a lot to say about those specific books. Then we have the Norse Shaman, Ancient Spiritual Practices of the Northern Tradition by Evelyn C. Ristic, hopefully. Yeah, this one is a little bit more like personal, I guess, as far as I can see. They do have, you know, the Norse tree of life kind of going on with the upper world and the lower world, and different, I don't know, it kind of takes you through history. It takes you through Norse shamanism. And then we have Northern Mysteries and Magic, and there's a lot of different resources in here. Like they go through the gods, different correspondences, runes, obviously. There's a lot of good, you know, Northern Mysteries and Magic, runes, and feminine power. So it is a little bit more goddessy focused, which obviously I like. Oh, then I have the Raven Goddess by Morgan Daimler, and this is going deeper with the Morrigan, so I put that in that book, in that book stack. We have a Nordic Runes book by Paul Rees Mountfort. And then to segue us into our next little pile, I have Norse Goddess Magic. This is accounts of different meditations that Alice Karlsdotter, hopefully I'm saying that right, had. Yes, trance work, mythology, and ritual. So some really cool stuff if you're into that sort of thing. And then moving into our next pile, I have like some like kind of more goddessy oriented stuff. So I have The Magic of the Fairies, which often comes up with working with Morgan. I read this whole book in one day. Like I ate. Yeah, it's by Cassandra Eason, and there's different meditations. I obviously didn't do the meditations. There's different ways to like craft different things. Obviously there's correspondences teaching you just about like the world of Fae, Wicca, fairy magic, etc. It's all about working with the spirits of nature. Then I have the Sacred Sex Rites of Ishtar, Shamanic Sexual Healing and Sex Magic. Obviously I'm really into Lilith, Inanna, Ishtar, Persephone, any high priestess type of archetype, right? So had to get this one. I love it. It's so good. When I read it, I'm like, ah, very alchemical, really cool. And on that same note, the Magdalene manuscript is The Alchemies of Horus and Sex Magic of Isis by Tom Kenyon and Judy Sion. This has a little bit of channeled scripture from, you know, Mary Magdalene and her relationship to Jesus. Super cool if you're into that sort of thing, obviously. And then there's also like rituals and different pieces of wisdom from the author on practicing the actual alchemical rituals inside. And the last book in this pile is Marion Woodman and Eleanor Dixon, Dancing in the Flames, The Dark Goddess in Transformation of Consciousness. I listened to Between the Worlds podcast a while ago, and she recommended this, so I haven't read it yet, though it looks like I have because I have a lot of things bookmarked. That's really just because I open it up and read little bits at a time. It says on the back, this powerful book about the dark goddess is a rich and intimate exploration that brings together history, mythology, psychology, and religion. The authors have written a seed text that is wise, vigorous, and revelatory. And that's from Joan Halifax. Okay, while we're on the topic of magic, it's like the whole video is all about that. We'll go into some of my other resources, like magical resource types of books that didn't have enough books to have like each their own category, but I kind of piled them all together. So starting off, we have Scrying for Beginners. I want to teach a little scrying workshop, so and I love scrying, like it's a big part of my practice. So this is like just a reference book. Wanted to see what they were doing, how they were introducing it. It's by Donald Tyson. Then we have The Witch's Mirror, The Craft, Lore, and Magic of the Looking Glass by Mickey Mueller. There's all sorts of little practices to do with a scrying mirror. I like tasseography. I like reading a lot, tea leaves, and there's so many ways to do it. So many. And I couldn't find like a lot of books, to be honest, when I was looking. But I saw this, I picked it up. It's from 1881. By a Highland seer. It's good, like I'm not hating on it, but I don't know, I just don't always like align with the interpretation of the symbology is the thing. Like I try to keep a more helpful outlook, and sometimes I run into like weird bias and things that aren't super medicinal sometimes, and so that's my only thing about this book. That being said, I feel like teacup reading is pretty much up to the interpreter in general. Like referring to somebody else's symbology isn't always the vibe. It's more about, to me, it's more kind of like you do your specific ritual that's a part of your craft that you've developed to read the tea leaves, and then what you see is going to be specific to your knowledge, right? Like you're going to get a symbol or see a symbol that spirit, ideally, or universe, or whoever you're working with, is they know what you think about that symbol, so they're going to bring it up so that you interpret it the way you would interpret it. And that's kind of how I see it with that. So yeah, let's keep going. Apocalyptic Witchcraft by Peter Gray. I love this book. It's so poetic, it's so dark, it's so hot, it's so witchy. Like I could go on and on. It's offensive. If you are easily offended by stuff and you're like, you're afraid of, you know, people talking about the devil and stuff, do not get this. But I think there is something so like leveling and equaling about the context where they do talk about witchcraft, and they do talk about how it is a huge issue, the way we look at those types of topics, you know, that we have these archetypes that are so powerful and scary, and where they come from, and it's all wrapped up into this really beautiful book that is very eye-opening in my opinion. But again, a lot of red flags could arise for people who are, you know, easily scared or have a lot of religious bias. So that's that. Kind of the same vibe as The Black Arts by Richard Cavendish. I haven't looked into it, but I have this spell deck by Lucy Cavendish, and I always wonder if they're related, because Cavendish, in my opinion, is a madman, but my favorite type of madman. Crazy stuff in this book, okay? There's everything from, it gets like, it's like, in the beginning it's like subtle, it gives you a little bit of everything. Like, let me first of all, Baphomet on the first page. In my typography class, I was remaking this book for my final. We had to show that we could format a book, and we had to redo the cover and everything. So I brought it to class, and my teacher, to give an example, was like, "Can I see your book to give an example?" Opens it up like this, and the class gasped seeing Baphomet. So anyway, good times. But it has all sorts of stuff about like astrology, numbers, etc. And then it goes into like graphic magical rituals and the black arts, you know, that's what that is. So an absorbing account of witchcraft, demonology, astrology, and other mystical practices through the ages. That's exactly what it is. We'll keep going. Spirit Conjuring for Witches, a magical evocation simplified by Frater Baraba. I think this is a good way to put it. The Ivo Dominguez Jr. said, a clear and distinct body of tools and rituals for working with a broad range of spirits. If you're a witch looking for a more formal approach to this field, this may be the book for you. Yeah, everything about conjuring. Messages in the Numbers by Alana Fairchild. I like this one. Again, I have my own ideas around numerology. I think a lot of people do. So I like to refer to this, but sometimes I'm like, you know, take what serves you, leave the rest type of deal. Then we have Sarah Gottesdiener's Moon Book, Lunar Magic to Change Your Life. I just love Sarah Gottesdiener. And this has a lot of stuff about working with the moon. Pretty cool. Psychic Self-Defense by Dion Fortune. Hot book. Like, whoop. Yes. A definitive manual for protecting yourself against paranormal attack. There are like accounts and stories, non-occult dangers of the Black Lodge, the pathology of non-human contacts. Like, this is a good book if you're seriously venturing into certain spaces psychically. Spellcrafting, strengthen the power of your craft by creating and casting your own unique spells. Sorry, I'm just looking at the time. By Erin Murphy Hiscock, author of The Green Witch. So this is really beginner level to spellcrafting, creating your own spells. Then we have The Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic, a new translation by Eliphas Levi, translated by John Michael Greer and Mark Anthony Mikatuk. So there's all types of stuff in here, like tons of stuff, okay? Like tons of different topics, accounts, different things, you know, and a lot of it is very Kabbalistically charged and it's through Levi's lens. So do your research, take it as you will. This one's really cool. Paul Foster's Case, Spiritual Fundamentals and Spiritual Unfoldment. When I first started kind of, you know, diving into all this stuff, this was something that I tried to stick to and practice. You know, Paul Foster Case is a magician and has tons of Golden Dawn and Kabbalistic knowledge, so something to look into if you're into it. Okay, and I think that leads me to this smaller pile over here of Golden Dawn Aleister Crowley stuff. I have 777 and other Kabbalistic writings of Aleister Crowley. This is his Sefer, or his guide to numbers and different things like that. Then we have book 4 of Magic by Crowley, this book. And then I have the Golden Dawn 7th edition by Israel Regardi. I know I'm not saying that right. I know I'm not saying a lot of things right. I'm not even gonna go into these books, but I got them. And on the topic of the Golden Dawn Aleister Crowley, of course a gust of wind is blowing in. We have some other things on the Kabbalah. So this is not on the Kabbalah, but we have a Chumash. Love it. Never let it touch the ground as much as I can. Then we have the Book of Letters, and this one's really cool. Lots of poems on the Hebrew alphabet, and lots of poems and different interpretations in a very artistic way on the mystical Aleph Beit is what they're calling it. And I like this quote. It says, it gives us a feeling which the Kabbalists always knew. The letters of the alphabet are not just letters, but symbols of our history, our philosophy, and the life of Jewish people. So this is a really cool. Then we have the alchemical keys to Masonic ritual. I just thought this was cool. I haven't even really opened it up yet, but I got it. Kabbalah workbook for magicians has some cool stuff, but it's not like a must-have if you ask me. Kabbalah and astrology, kind of feel the same way about this. It goes really in depth and kind of loses me, but it's cool. Sefer Yetzirah, classic. And one of my faves, the Queer Kabbalah. I just got this. It's a non-binary, gender-fluid, omnisexual mysticism and magic book by Enfys J. Book. And it talks a lot about the Tree of Life, you know, Kabbalah through a more modern lens, a more progressive lens, and I love that. Then really quickly, I have 3 Egyptian books. The Light of Egypt, The Science of the Soul and the Stars, really cool book. Like super in depth and goes into all sorts of different ideas that I haven't even explored yet, so I picked that up. Hopefully I'll get to dive into it pretty soon. Egyptian hieroglyphics, good art resource. And of course the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Such a cool book. I love this one. Lastly, I have Death and Sensuality, Erotism by Georges Bataille, I don't know. I haven't fully read this book, but it's pretty awesome from what I have read. It's definitely heavy and cool and has a lot of references to other paths, obviously, and philosophies around the topic. Really cool if you're into like the Eros kind of path. So other than that, I have a couple of other random books lying around my house and I don't feel like getting up and getting them, and I'm pretty sure this was comprehensive enough on my book collection. I hope that this was entertaining at least, and maybe you got something out of it. If you did, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like the video, and until next time, I'll see ya. Bye!